Life is unpredictable, full of highs and lows, twists and turns. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, the weight of it all feels unbearable. But here's the truth, not everything is meant to be in your hands. Some battles aren't yours to fight. That's when you let God handle it. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up, it means letting go of what's weighing you down. Too many of us hold on to situations we were never meant to control. We confuse being in charge with being responsible, but the two are not the same. Responsibility is about doing your part. Control is about trying to do it all. Surrendering is recognizing where your role ends and God's begins. When you try to handle everything on your own, you eventually burn out. That exhaustion you feel. It's your soul telling you that you're carrying a weight not meant for you. God didn't design you to do it all. He designed you to trust him. And trust starts with releasing your grip on what you can't fix. Some people think surrender is for the weak, but let me tell you, it takes strength to let go. It takes courage to admit that you don't have all the answers. Strength isn't about holding on tighter. It's about knowing when to let go. That's when true power shows up, the kind only God can provide. We live in a world that glorifies control. Take charge of your life, they say. But what happens when things spiral out of control? Do you panic? Or do you let God step in? Surrender doesn't mean you failed. It means you've trusted the one who never fails. That's wisdom, not weakness. When you surrender, you're not giving up, you're giving over. You're saying, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And that wisdom is the foundation of peace, power, and progress. When you let God handle it, you stop carrying burdens that were never yours in the first place. Faith is not passive, it's proactive. Too often, people think faith means sitting back and waiting for a miracle. But faith isn't just belief, it's movement. It's doing what you can with what you have and trusting God to handle the rest. Action doesn't replace faith, it strengthens it. Imagine planting a seed. You don't just toss it into the dirt and walk away. You water it, nurture it, and protect it from harm. That's your role. But you can't force it to grow. That's God's part. Faith is the same way. You do what's in your power, but you trust God with what's beyond it. Control is the enemy of faith. When you try to control everything, you leave no room for God to work. You're saying, I've got this, when in reality you don't. Faith is about stepping back and saying, God, you got this. It's not about giving up, it's about giving over. Faith also demands patience. You won't see results overnight, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just like the seed, growth happens beneath the surface before it breaks through. Your job is to keep taking small steps of faith, even when you don't see immediate results. Trust the process. The beauty of faith is that it frees you from the burden of control. When you trust God, you stop worrying about outcomes. You stop stressing about timelines. You simply do your part and let him handle the rest. That's when you'll see breakthroughs you never imagined possible. Worry is like quicksand. The more you struggle with it, the deeper you sink. Every time you replay the what ifs in your mind, you're giving worry more power over you. Worry isn't just a habit, it's a lack of trust. It's you saying, I'm not sure God can handle this. When you worry, you're carrying a burden that doesn't belong to you. Think about it. Has worrying ever solved a single problem in your life? No, all it does is steal your peace, rob your energy, and cloud your unears. Worry doesn't add, subtracts. And the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it gets. You can't wrestle with worry and win. The only way to beat it is to let it go. But letting go doesn't mean ignoring the problem. It means giving it to God. Every time worry creeps in, replace it with prayer. Talk to God about what's on your heart and then leave it with him. That's how you break free. Worry also blinds you to solutions. When your mind is cluttered with fear, you can't see the opportunities God is placing in front of you. Clarity comes when you let go of anxiety and trust that God is already working behind the scenes. Worry is a distraction, but faith is a focus. When you stop wrestling with worry, you'll find a peace that doesn't make sense. It's not because the situation has changed, it's because your perspective has. You'll realize that you don't have to have all the answers because you serve a God who does. That's where true freedom begins. Timing is everything, but it's not always yours to control. We live in a world of instant gratification where waiting feels like a punishment. But God's timing isn't about convenience, it's about perfection. He sees the bigger picture, and his timing is always better than ours. When things don't happen when you want them to, it's easy to feel frustrated or forgotten. But delay doesn't mean denial. Sometimes God is protecting you from something you're not ready for. Sometimes he's preparing you for something greater. Either way, trust that the wait is worth it. Impatience is a sign of mistrust. When you rush ahead of God, you're saying, I don't believe you'll come through. But faith is about staying in step with him, even when the road feels long. Trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. God's timing is often inconvenient for our plans, but it's always perfect for his purpose. The things you think are delays are often his way of setting things up for something far greater. Your job isn't to understand the timing, it's to trust the one who controls it. When you align yourself with God's timing, you'll find that everything falls into place exactly when it's supposed to. It may not be on your schedule, but it will always be right on time. Trust the process and let him handle the rest. Letting go isn't easy. It requires humility, courage, and faith. Most people hold on because they're afraid of losing control, afraid of the unknown, or afraid of failure. But the truth is, holding on to what's not working is more damaging than letting go. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of frustration and despair. When you let go, you make room for God to work. Holding on too tightly to your plans, your expectations, or your timeline blocks the blessings God has for you. Letting go isn't about losing. It's about gaining freedom, peace, and clarity. It's about trusting that God's plan is better than yours. Letting go also teaches you to focus on what truly matters. So much of what we hold on to is tied to pride, ego, or fear. But when you release those things, you find that the weight you've been carrying wasn't even necessary. You were holding on because it felt familiar, not because it was right. There's a power in saying, God, I can't do this on my own. That moment of surrender opens the door to strength you didn't know you had. It's not your strength, it's his. Letting go isn't about giving up, it's about stepping aside so God can step in. The hardest part of letting go is taking that first step. But once you do, you'll wonder why you waited so long. You'll feel lighter, stronger, and more focused. That's the power of letting go. It frees you to move forward with faith and confidence, knowing God is in control. Your energy is precious, but too often we waste it on things that don't matter. Arguments, grudges, toxic relationships, and petty distractions, they drain you. Every time you give your energy to something unworthy, you're stealing from your future. It's time to stop pouring into what doesn't pour back. Not every battle is yours to fight. Some conflicts are distractions designed to pull you off course. You don't have to engage in every argument, defend yourself against every critic, or prove your worth to people who don't see it. Your energy is better spent on what God has called you to do. When you waste your energy, you're robbing yourself of focus. You can't chase your purpose if you're constantly reacting to things that don't matter. Learn to say no, not just to people, but to behaviors, habits, and situations that drain you. Saying no to the wrong things makes room for the right ones. Investing your energy wisely means aligning it with God's plan for your life. Ask yourself, does this align with my purpose? Does it bring me closer to the person God is shaping me to be? If the answer is no, let it go. Your energy is a gift. Don't squander it on what doesn't serve your higher calling. When you stop giving your energy to the wrong things, you'll find that you have more strength, focus, and clarity than you ever thought possible. You'll realize that your energy is most powerful when it's directed toward what truly matters. And that's where God wants you to be. Pain is inevitable, but healing is a choice. Too often we carry our pain like a badge of honor, thinking it makes us stronger. But holding on to hurt only keeps the wound open. Healing begins when you let God into those broken places and allow him to do what only he can do. Healing doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the pain didn't happen. It means facing it, feeling it, and then releasing it. When you let God handle the hurt, he doesn't just cover it up, he transforms it. He turns your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom, and your scars into strength. Many people avoid healing because it's uncomfortable. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and patience. But the discomfort of healing is temporary. The freedom it brings is eternal. Let God do the deep work. Trust that he knows how to heal even the pain you don't talk about. God doesn't waste your pain. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every heartbreak, it all serves a purpose. When you let him handle the hurt, he uses it to shape you into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. Your pain has a purpose, but you have to let him work. Healing isn't a one-time event, it's a journey. It's a daily decision to let go of bitterness, resentment, and regret. It's choosing to trust God's process even when it hurts. When you let him handle the hurt, you'll find peace, joy, and freedom on the other side. Standing firm in your faith doesn't mean being rigid or arrogant. It means knowing who you are in God and staying rooted in God, his promises. The storms will come, but when your foundation is solid, you won't be shaken. Stand firm in your faith, but always remain humble in your spirit. Humility is strength under control. It's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's recognizing that your strength comes from God, not from your abilities. When you stay humble, you leave room for God to elevate you in his time. Standing firm also means not compromising your values. The world will try to sway you, distract you, or pull you away from what you know is right. But when you let God handle it, you don't have to bend to the pressures of the world. Stand firm in who you are and let God fight the battles you can't. Humility keeps you grounded. It reminds you that every blessing, every victory, and every breakthrough comes from God. Pride will tell you to take the credit, but humility points back to him. Stand firm in your faith, but let your humility be a reflection of his grace. When you combine strength with humility, you become unstoppable. You're not just standing in your power, you're standing in God's power. That's a foundation no storm can shake. Stand firm, stay humble, and let God handle the rest. Life has a way of making you feel like you're at the mercy of circumstances. But let me remind you, no matter what it looks like, God has the final say. People may doubt you, doors may close, and plans may fail, but if God has spoken a promise over your life, it will come to pass. The odds might be stacked against you. The situation may look impossible, but God specializes in the impossible. He makes a way where there is no way. When others count you out, he counts you in. When the world says no, he says yes. Trust that his word is greater than any obstacle. God's final say isn't always what you expect, but it's always what you need. Sometimes he removes things from your life to make room for something better. Sometimes he closes doors to protect you from what you can't see. Trust his plan even when it doesn't match yours. The beauty of God's authority is that it's unshakable. No person, no situation, and no failure can override his will. When he says it's your time, nothing can stop him. When he declares victory, no enemy can undo it. That's the power of letting him handle it. When you let God have the final say, you walk with confidence. You're not swayed by opinions, circumstances, or setbacks. You know that his plan is perfect, his timing is flawless, and his promises are unbreakable. Let God handle it and trust that his final say is all that matters. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do, especially when you've been praying, planning, and preparing. But the waiting season isn't wasted. It's a season where God works behind the scenes, setting things in motion that you can't even see. While you're waiting, He's shaping you, strengthening you, and positioning you for what's ahead. In the waiting, you learn patience and resilience. You discover that your timeline isn't always God's timeline, and that's okay because His timing is perfect. He's never late, even when it feels like He's taken forever. The waiting isn't a punishment, it's preparation. It's where you grow stronger, wiser, and more ready to handle what's coming. The waiting season also reveals what's in your heart. It tests your faith and your character. Do you trust God, or do you only trust Him when things go your way? Waiting strips away the illusions of control and forces you to lean into His promises. And when you do, you realize that waiting isn't passive, it's active faith. When you embrace the waiting, you stop focusing on what's missing and start appreciating what's already in front of you. You see the blessings in the small things, the lessons in the struggles, and the beauty in the process. Waiting teaches you to live with expectation, knowing that God's best is still to come. Fear will paralyze you if you let it. It will keep you stuck in the same place, replaying the same doubts and insecurities over and over again. But faith is the antidote to fear. When you operate in faith, you're not relying on what you see, you're trusting in what you know. And what you know is that God has your back. Fear whispers lies, telling you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not smart enough. But faith reminds you that you're not walking this journey alone. God didn't bring you this far to abandon you now. Faith says, I may not know how, but I know who. That's the kind of energy that moves mountains. Faith isn't just about believing, it's about acting. It's stepping out when you're scared. It's taking the risk when the odds aren't in your favor. It's deciding to trust God even when everything around you is screaming no. Faith isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. The world will try to feed your fear. It will bombard you with negativity, doubt, and distractions. But when you keep your eyes on God, fear loses its grip. You realize that fear is only as powerful as the attention you give it. Shift your focus to your faith and watch how fear shrinks in the presence of God's promises. Life isn't easy, and it's not supposed to be. Every challenge, every setback, and every obstacle is an opportunity to grow stronger. Perseverance isn't about never falling, it's about getting back up every time you do. It's about refusing to quit no matter how tough the road gets. Perseverance builds character. It teaches you discipline, grit, and resilience. When you keep going despite the odds, you're proving to yourself and to everyone watching that you're not someone who gives up. You're someone who fights, someone who endures, someone who finishes what they start. The road to success is never straight. It's filled with detours, delays, and disappointments. But every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your destination. Perseverance is about taking those steps even when they're hard, even when they're painful, even when you're tired. It's about trusting that the journey is worth it. Sometimes the only difference between those who succeed and those who don't is perseverance. It's not about talent, luck, or connections. It's about the willingness to keep going when others stop. Perseverance is what separates the dreamers from the achievers. It's the fuel that keeps you moving no matter what stands in your way. Let me leave you with this, whatever it is you're facing, whatever storm is raging in your life, it's not too big for God to handle. It might feel overwhelming, like the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders, but remember, you were never meant to carry it all alone. That's why you've got to let God handle it. When you let God take control, you stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. You stop worrying about things that are beyond your reach. You find peace in the chaos, strength in your struggles, and clarity in your confusion. Letting God handle it doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're giving it over to the one who knows the end from the beginning. Trust him with the process, trust him with the timing, and trust him with the outcome. Stop trying to control what's out of your hands and start believing that he's working all things together for your good. When you do that, you'll walk differently, talk differently, and live differently, because you'll know you're not in this fight alone. So whatever it is you're paying, your doubts, your dreams, your struggles, lay it down at his feet. Step back, take your hands off, and let him work. You might not see the answer right away, and that's okay. Faith isn't about seeing, it's about believing. And when you believe, you give God the space to do what only he can do. Let God handle it. And you'll see that the same power that calms the storms, heals the broken, and moves mountains is alive and working in your life. Trust him, lean on him, and let him take it from here.